So I feel like my main challenge for today is work out how to use the clicker, but I'm sure someone will tell me to turn it around at some point. So my talk today is called The Secret to a Bigger, Better Brain, but I feel like a couple of the previous speakers have already revealed the secret, so it's not very secretive anymore, but I'm going to persevere because I wanted to have a slightly dramatic, exciting title. But for those of you who don't know me, my name is Elizabeth Forsythe. I'm a clinical geneticist, and I've been involved in the BBS clinic since they started in 2010. And that means I've been really privileged to speak to lots of you, and I've seen lots of children grow into young, confident adults, and it's been really exciting to speak to so many of you, see so many of you, and hear from caregivers and parents, about the sort of things that are important to you. And we've talked about some of those things already through the different speakers, but another thing that's come up a lot in the last couple of years relates to learning new skills, learning new skills for life, things that can help you become an independent adult, and also about mood. And today, I'm going to talk to you about what I've learnt in the last couple of years about how we can optimize our brain function, and also about the study that we completed last year, and how this links to having a bigger, better brain. Let me try now. No? Yay! Okay. So for over the last 2 years, I've been learning a lot about the brain and understanding things about the different structures of the brain, and in particular about how things are slightly different in people with BBS, in particular with relation to a structure called the hippocampus. And that structure is right here in yellow for those of you who can see the slide. So the deal with the hippocampus is that we've got two of them, right? One on each side, and they have this amazing job to do. They store all of our memories. So we're talking about everything from your drive to work to the first time you held your newborn baby, that kind of thing. So lots of different things. And I think that's really quite an extraordinary job. And when you store those things in your hippocampus, it changes the structure forever. And sadly, in people who have the form of dementia called Alzheimer's, we know that their hippocampi shrivel up. They become smaller as they lose their memories. And that's not a big enough job. We also know that the hippocampus has stuff to do with our mood as well. So we know that people who become depressed, in those people, their hippocampi shrivel up, they become smaller. And we know that when they get antidepressants and they work, they become bigger again. So those are two huge jobs, right? So why am I telling you this? Well, as I alluded to earlier, we know that there are some bits in the brain in people who have BBS that are slightly different from people who don't have BBS. And that got me thinking, because we know, first of all, that the hippocampus is slightly smaller and a little bit more unusually shaped in many people with BBS. And when you think about the function of the hippocampus, that kind of makes sense, because we've heard this many times throughout the clinics, that people are saying, actually, I'm struggling a bit at school, I'm struggling to learn new skills, and also there are issues with mood. But here's the good news, right? So we used to think that the brain it is what it is, and you've got the brain you've got, and there's nothing really you can do about it. And now we know that actually there are two parts of your brain where you can get more neurons, you can get more cells. One of them is in the olfactory bulb, which has to do with our sense of smell, and the other one is the hippocampus. Your average brain has around 100,000 billion neurons, so that's a lot of cells, right? And in your hippocampus alone, you make 700 new neurons every day. And that may not sound like a lot in the grand scheme of how many you've got, but actually that means that by the time you turn 50, you have a new hippocampus, right? That's quite a lot. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the sort of things that you can do to improve your hippocampus and to improve the turnover of cells. But I was quite aware that actually at this point, I was placed in the sort of towards the end of the morning session, and most people might be falling asleep. So what I thought we might do, instead of me just giving you a list, was to do a pop quiz, okay? So, are you ready for the big hippocampus pop quiz? Okay, great. Okay, so there are the good things and the bad things, okay? And I want you just to use your common sense. 1, healthy food, fruit and vegetables, good or bad? Good. Hey! Okay, very good. Alcohol. Bad. Okay, that is true. That is true. That is true, but I would say that there is one thing. So if you have to have some alcohol, which many people will feel inspired to do tonight, you may like to choose the red wine because it's got a particular component that apparently is good for your neurons, but everything in moderation, so don't go crazy on the red wine tonight. Whoops. Learning a new skill. Hey! Very good. Exercise. Stress. You guys are really good. Okay, and the last one, this is a combined thing. So this is both sleep and also a different kind of exercise that people do in the home. Good or bad? You guys are good. Well done. Okay. And by the way, this is a list for all of us, okay? So this is not just a list for people who have BBS and who might like to have a bigger hippocampus, because for all of us, as we age, the turnover of cells goes down. So this is an inspiration for all of us, right? If you want a bigger, better hippocampus. So I wanted to move on and tell you a little bit about the study that we started doing in 2016. We felt inspired to look at how we could improve the size and the function of the hippocampus, in particular in people with BBS. And I'm very sad that Sonia, who Phil talked about earlier, is not here today, because she would have been able to talk a little bit about some of the work that has formed the basis for this. But to give you a summary, really, the things that we went on or the sort of facts that we went on were, 1, we know that in people with BBS, the hippocampus on average is a little bit smaller and a little bit unusually shaped. We also know that in people with Alzheimer's dementia, as I talked about earlier, we know that their hippocampi get smaller as they lose their memory, but we also know that you can slow that decline if people start exercising. So that was good news. And then the third thing really relates to what Sonia did. So she worked with mice that have BBS, similar to what Victor was doing. And what she found was that mice that were exercising, when she put them into one of these spinning wheels, they would do lots and lots of running. And she found that those mice that exercised had more nerve cells, more dense nerve cells in the area where the hippocampus is than those mice who didn't. So we thought, well, this is only going to be a win-win situation, right? So what we started doing in 2016 was we invited a group of children with BBS into Great Ormond Street Hospital for an assessment. And we looked at a couple of different things. So up here in the corner, you can see there's a screenshot from something called the Pair Games. It's an app, it's a memory app, where you look at different pairs and different pictures, and you have to try and remember those different pictures and then come back to them. And that's a way of assessing how your memory, specifically the memory that is involved in that you store in your hippocampus, how that works. The other thing we did was we did a fitness assessment. So to see how fit each child was, and you can see we've got one child down here doing a fitness assessment very well. And the third thing was we did an MRI scan of the brain, so that's a very detailed scan of the brain to get a sense of the different brain structures, in particular the hippocampus. And the picture up here of this particular brain, I don't think he'll mind me revealing it, that is Phil's brain, because he was our guinea pig. And we don't like to test things out on you guys straight away. We test it out on ourselves, and Phil very kindly was volunteered. Okay. But the really amazing thing was that, so what happened after this was that the children were divided into two groups. So some of them had their normal management, and some of the other children went away and worked really, really hard with a personal trainer. And we're incredibly grateful to the families who did this, because we realized that's not a small undertaking to have to take your child to see a personal trainer once a week when you've got other children and work and all these things. So we're very grateful for that. And the fantastic thing was that when they came back, what we did was we rescanned everybody, and we did all this again. And what we found was that the children who were fitter, there was quite a big change, actually. So not only did the children who were fitter have better blood flow to their brains, which is a good thing, they were getting better at the memory game, which is a really hard game, by the way. And also, they had bigger hippocampi, which was great. And just to prove it to you, this picture, so you've got a picture here again of the brain, and over on the far side here, you can see a brain in different cross sections, and you can see the bit that's lit up in yellow here is this is one of our patients, and this is one of our participants, and the bit that's lit up is the bit that's grown, and that is the hippocampus, which we were really, really excited about. I think the thing that was really particularly exciting for us about this was that although we knew already that you can improve the size of your hippocampus and you can improve your memory and so on through exercise, we didn't know that if you started perhaps genetically on the back foot and you were born with a smaller hippocampus, that you could still, that was something that was still possible. So that's what's been really, really exciting about this. And we're hoping to do this on a much bigger scale and involve many more of you. And we've got Steve Berman here today, who was here last year, who's our personal trainer. He's done, okay, can you stand up, please, Steve? That would be really helpful. Thank you. So Steve was here last year. He's been one of our key personal trainers. He's here again. Huh? You may sit down, yes. Well done. Steve was here last year, and he's here again, and he has very kindly offered to give more of you advice. So I think there is a real exercise theme this year. So you've got lots of people to go to, which I think is really exciting. Now, I guess the other sort of side effect, if you like, but the other effect of this was not just on memory and the brain, but also that lots of people were feeling more confident, actually. Lots of people came back to us and said, well, I feel more physically confident. I feel more confident to take part in sports. I feel more confident to go into a gym. And in particular, that was true for the people who had embraced this as a family. And we know that the biggest effect, if you make some kind of lifestyle change, particularly when it's in children, is that if you can embrace it, as a family. I wanted to finish off by saying, for me, the past 2 years has given me a real insight into the benefits of exercise. And I think all of us recognize it's really, really hard to make a significant change in your lifestyle. Anybody who's ever been on a diet knows how difficult that is. But also anybody who's ever had a child knows that it's possible. You can make significant changes to your lifestyle. And I wanted to leave you with one thought, which is that if a drug company was able to distill the effect on your brain that exercise has, they would be laughing. They would be raking it in, because there is no tablet that can do to your brain what exercise can do to you, because it really is a key to having a bigger, better brain. Thank you.